we don't have a lot of money, we're not AAA studios, but I believe that our support outweighs that, and I think that this could really help the scene to get better and our products to improve. Firstly, one way is the Excel Nicholas Mamo. I've been developing games since I was 12. I really love games. I started out with the love for RPGs, and that's what really prompted me to start developing games. Unfortunately, I never created the next Elder Scrolls game, but I once imported an image of a spider into a game, so there's that. If there's something which I really love apart from developing games, it's writing. I'm actually a reviewer for Envision Game Community. I'm an indie game reviewer and also a contributor to i4Games. i4Games, I don't know whether any of you have ever heard about it. It's a Dutch-based magazine. It doesn't just stop at games, but looks behind the scenes at how we develop games. As for Envision Game Community, it's a website which deals with everything gaming related. I review indie games and mostly indie games, basically. Nyphoon started out in 2008, actually. In 2006, I met Clement.us and its forums, Firefox. Maybe some of you will remember Clement as the huge repository of freeware games. The forums were actually part of the website, and that's where I met its administrator, its owner, Versailles, who, alongside other members and coincidentally another Maltese moderator, they helped me to start developing games. That's the old logo of Game Maker. There are a few young faces, so probably some of you have used Game Maker before. I used it for 2 years. I didn't have any programming knowledge yet. I was just 12 at the time. Before I moved on to JMonkey Engine. JMonkey Engine 3 is actually a Java-based engine which is open source. It's fantastic, basically limitless, and also boasts an outstanding community behind it. Thanks to JMonkey Engine, I managed to start really looking behind the scenes of what the games were, how they are developed, without the limitations of Game Maker, and I could really just build everything from the ground up. I only released a few micro to small games using Game Maker, but last year I released my first engine for JMonkey Engine. Sprite project is actually a prototype, kind of think of it as a proof of concept for JMonkey Engine. JMonkey Engine is mainly built for 3D games, but the Sprite project aims to facilitate development using two-dimensional games. I know for a fact that a number of developers have been using it to develop their own games. It was actually featured on Game From Scratch, which helped it to grow, and actually another version of it is coming out really soon, next month. I know of one game developed by Arrow Studios, who I'd like to thank for their moral support and for their feedback and critique in helping me improve the project. That is the game they released using the Sprite project called Champions Blade. It was released earlier on last year, and that is the project's mascot. A new version is coming which will aim to counteract the limitations of using just the CPU to develop the games with sprites. By using GLS shaders, they basically use the GPU power to fasten the process of rendering sprites, and they will work together to improve the performance. Anyway, I hadn't been working on any big projects before the Sprite project, but I think there always comes a time when you start thinking, what am I going to do with the studio, with the engines I've built. And that's when I started to thinking about, listen, I love writing, I love developing games, so how about I use the two of them to create one product. Of course, I never intended to create a small game. I'd rather, even if it is my first game, to pour my time into something worth working on. And that is when the idea for Winter Slide came about. Winter Slide is actually a simple idea behind it. The main aspect is the gameplay, yes, but it also focuses on the storyline. I believe that even though we are all unique and go through different experiences, I think the bottom line in every experience, basically we all go through similar experiences. And we can all adapt what we see. We can all interpret what we go through different means and with different perspectives. And that is how the Winter Slide came to be. It's not, you probably can't see it from back there, but anyway, that's part of the storyline. It's mainly focused on minimalism. That is the first piece of concept art. I chose minimalism earlier on this year as the art style. I believe that minimalism has certain features which can greatly help tell a story. I think minimalism ignores the trivialities and instead focuses on what's really important. I think if you take a story and just focus on the most important bits, everybody can interpret the story in his own way, can link with it better. This was actually, as I said, the first piece of concept art. From there, I wasn't really satisfied with the result, but I continued to iterate and experiment, and this is the latest iteration of the same piece of concept art using the latest techniques I've been using. It's minimalistic, yeah, and it's also simple. Simple, there are no textures. Yes, it's not stark minimalism, but I believe that the lack of textures and minimalism can really put us in the shoes of the snowball. Now, what's Winter Slide? Winter Slide is actually the story of a snowball. The snowball is pretty dynamic. I think what really sets snowballs apart when I think about it is that if they roll on snow, they get bigger. If they're not in contact with snow, they melt. The snowball has had enough of snow around him and wants to go looking for adventure, somewhere where there's no snow, where he can see something which isn't just pure white. Of course, a snowball can survive if he's living away from what practically makes it up. And Winter Slide tells the story of a snowball. Now, I think everybody has that something, that chase after something which can't probably coexist with our lives. And I think that the snowball is the perfect way to illustrate that, to help us understand what's happening. Of course, I think many of you have played Limbo here. I think that there are two spectrums. I think there's the first spectrum where the player plays the game and then enjoys beating the traps, playing the game over and over again, escaping the spider, and just surviving. Then there's the gamer who plays the game to the very end, and right there he recognizes that there's a storyline, and maybe he links that storyline. I hope I'm not spoiling anything, but he links that storyline, maybe with something that happened to him, maybe what Limbo means in our life. And I was actually pretty impressed with what I saw in Limbo, and I wanted to convert that into something which could tell my own experience, but at the same time remains detached from me, remains detached. Why? For the simple reason that if you're playing it, you probably don't really care about what's happening to me, you care about what's happening to you. So Winter Slide focuses on providing the player with an enjoyable experience and at the same time also telling a story for those who want to listen, who want to improvise and link the story to themselves. Of Of course, minimalism can't tell the story on its own, but I believe that with the help of certain environment art and assets, it could really boost the storytelling experience and help with that regard. Another important aspect with the slide is the color. I believe that if you compare the two pieces of concept art, you realize that even though they're essentially the same, they're just a platform, snow, the snowball, maybe the background and the sun. But if you zoom out, what you see is different colors. That's the whole difference between the two, even though there are different challenges. And I believe that colors can be a great means to the end, which is telling a story. With that slide, I have been talking a lot about the story, but as you can see, there are also challenges. The challenges help the player adapt to what he's seeing. The snowball can grow in size, and at the same time, when he jumps, he can crack, he can fall there, and just disintegrate. I believe that the game, will be the whole interface. There will not be any indicators of how far away the player is from his device. And I believe that adds to the storyline. If the player cannot see just how far he is from dying, then he can't risk a lot. At the same time, the player will be able to double jump, bounce. Of course, that will take its toll on the snowball size, and as it grows smaller, it will falter and die. It's a physics platform game, so the players will have to adapt to most of the different circumstances. But ultimately, that's the whole point of the game. Basically, a snowball which has to retain its size, at least its minimum size, to survive. Of course, I believe that one of the pillars of storytelling in games is that the players have an incentive towards the goal. And I think that part of the scoring mechanism will also be the amount of time the player manages to stand away from the snow, because that's what the snowball wants. That's what it desires, to be away from what it's basically created it. There's a few more concept art, but that is the basic aspect of the game behind it. As I said before, different environments, different backdrops just make the game feel different to the player. The backdrops don't just give the player the impression that he's somewhere different. We usually associate blue with peace and red with something more dangerous. I think something like this is pretty peaceful, so it would make sense to put it in the beginning where the player has to just learn what's going on. Of course, there are certain aspects such as jumps, which the user will have to time, but I think that helps to tackle both ends of the spectrum. Basically, the player who wants to have fun and the player who would also like to associate the story with something deeper. Of course, the game is still early in development. It started out back in August 2013. Part of it was actually submitted as an academic project, so that helped me polish the game's basic engines. Of course, as a physics-based game built atop a 3D framework, it's still far from being done. It's still being polished. The basic engine, the physics engine, is still work in progress, but the level editor is being developed at quite a great rate. That's really the thing about the difference between gameplay and the story, which the game will cover. Of course, there are other aspects at play, such as the music, which will be designed especially for the game. Part part of the music will actually be designed simply as a dynamic means to help them to start with what are different music. Different music communicates differently to us, and I think something peaceful would help the player immerse himself better within the game. I think that a dynamic music engine would really help communicate to the player what he's going through, what he's experiencing, and that will also be incorporated in the game. I think that's really about this type. Of course, the game will be using shaders, GSL to help bring the game to life. You only saw a few pieces of concept art. I've been developing and reiterating almost every week since the beginning of January to improve the product. Graphics aren't really my strong point, but if I manage to create a good visual aspect for the game, I think that would be a solid foundation for the game. That's it here about IndieMeetup Nyphoon. The game will probably be released late next year, early 2016, since of course Nyphoon is a hobbyist game studio. You can follow the progress on IndieMeetup on Twitter, Facebook, and the website. The new website was actually launched this morning after some problems with the old website. Since we are basically game developers here, if anyone has any products, any games which are going to be released soon or maybe have been released recently, please don't hesitate to contact me about coverage with the Envision Game community. I don't know if you have any questions.